name isn't Katie O'Clair. It's Catherine Janeway. Captain Catherine Janeway.
Star Trek has spanned nearly 60 years across multiple television series and films, and each iteration of the franchise has been defined by its central character, usually the captain who leads the crew and embodies the values and vision of that particular show. These captains and main characters aren't just military leaders. They're explorers, diplomats, philosophers, and representations of what humanity and the Federation can become. Understanding these characters is essential to understanding what makes each Star Trek series unique and what connects them all to Gene Roddenberry's original vision. Let's break down the main character from each major Star Trek series and film franchise, examining who they are, what makes them distinctive, how they approach command and exploration, and why they matter to Star Trek's overall legacy. Captain James T. Kirk. Captain James Tiberius Kirk, played by William Shatner, is the commanding officer of the USS Enterprise in the original series, 1966 to 1969, and the first 6 Star Trek films. Kirk is the archetype that all subsequent Star Trek captains would be measured against. The bold leader who breaks rules when necessary, who relies on intuition as much as analysis, and who refuses to accept no-win scenarios. Kirk's defining characteristic is his willingness to violate regulations and orders when he believes they're wrong. He's broken the Prime Directive, Starfleet's non-interference policy regarding less advanced civilizations, more than any other captain because he prioritizes saving lives and doing what's right over following rules blindly. This makes him controversial within Starfleet, but also makes him extraordinarily effective at handling situations that don't fit neatly into established procedures. Kirk is a tactical genius who defeats enemies through unconventional thinking. He's talked computers into self-destructing, bluffed superior forces into retreating, and found creative solutions to impossible problems. His most famous achievement is beating the Kobayashi Maru, a no-win training scenario at Starfleet Academy, by reprogramming the simulation, demonstrating his fundamental philosophy that there are always options if you're creative enough. But Kirk isn't just a cowboy captain who shoots first and asks questions later. He's deeply humanistic, believing in diplomacy, in giving enemies second chances, in appealing to the better nature of adversaries. He's formed alliances with former enemies, shown mercy to defeated foes, and consistently chosen peace over violence when circumstances allow. This combination of toughness and compassion, of strategic brilliance and moral conviction, makes Kirk the ideal Starfleet captain for the original series mission of exploration and first contact. Kirk's relationships define him as much as his command decisions. His friendship with Spock and McCoy forms the emotional core of the original series, with Kirk balancing Spock's pure logic against McCoy's pure emotion to make decisions that incorporate both reason and humanity. Kirk is also famously romantic, but ultimately married to his ship. The Enterprise is his true love, and command is his primary identity. Kirk represents Star Trek at its most adventurous and optimistic. The belief that humanity can overcome any challenge through courage, creativity, and cooperation. He's the captain who shows that rules exist to serve people, not the other way around, and that doing the right thing sometimes requires breaking the rules. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, commands the USS Enterprise D in Star Trek The Next Generation, 1987 to 1994, and 4 feature films. Picard is fundamentally different from Kirk. Where Kirk is intuitive and willing to break rules, Picard is thoughtful and respects protocol. Where Kirk is romantic and impulsive, Picard is reserved and deliberate. This made Picard initially controversial with fans who wanted another Kirk, but Patrick Stewart's performance and the character's depth won over audiences and proved Star Trek could evolve while maintaining its core values. Picard is an intellectual and a diplomat first, a military officer second. He's an archaeology enthusiast, a Shakespeare lover, a wine connoisseur, and a student of philosophy and history. He approaches problems by understanding context, seeking diplomatic solutions, and exhausting peaceful options before resorting to force. He takes the Prime Directive more seriously than Kirk did, understanding that interference, even well-intentioned, can have devastating consequences for developing civilizations. Picard's command style is collaborative and thoughtful. He surrounds himself with capable officers and genuinely listens to their expertise and input. His senior staff meetings aren't just Kirk asking for options. They're genuine discussions where Picard considers multiple perspectives before making decisions. He's more willing than Kirk to delegate, trusting his officers to handle situations independently. But Picard isn't soft or weak. When force is necessary, he uses it decisively. When the Borg, a terrifying collective that assimilates entire civilizations, threatens the Federation, Picard fights them ruthlessly. When captured and tortured by the Cardassians, he endures rather than betray his principles. His famous line, "The line must be drawn here. This far, no further," shows that his thoughtfulness and diplomacy have limits, and when those limits are reached, Picard is as formidable as any Starfleet captain. Picard's personal journey includes confronting his assimilation by the Borg, which traumatized him deeply and left psychological scars, navigating complicated relationships, particularly with Beverly Crusher and his estranged family, and grappling with questions about family, legacy, and what he'll leave behind. His character explores themes of trauma, recovery, responsibility, and the weight of command in ways that Kirk's adventures rarely had time for. Picard represents Star Trek at its most thoughtful and sophisticated, the belief that problems can be solved through understanding, that diplomacy and culture matter as much as weapons and tactics, and that the Federation's values of tolerance, reason, and cooperation are worth defending even when challenged. Commander Benjamin Sisko. Commander, later Captain. Benjamin Sisko, played by Avery Brooks, commands Deep Space Nine station in Star Trek. Deep Space Nine, 1993 to 1999. Sisko is fundamentally different from both Kirk and Picard. He's not exploring the galaxy on a starship. He's running a space station on the edge of Federation space, dealing with political intrigue, religious conflicts, and eventually a devastating war. This stationary setting allows Deep Space Nine to explore serialized storytelling and moral complexity in ways previous Trek series couldn't. Sisko begins the series as a damaged man. He lost his wife Jennifer at the Battle of Wolf 359 when the Borg destroyed her ship, an attack led by an assimilated Jean-Luc Picard, which creates complicated feelings when Sisko meets Picard in the series premiere. Sisko is a single father raising his son Jake while struggling with grief and questioning whether he even wants to remain in Starfleet. This makes him more vulnerable and relatable than the confident captains who came before. But Sisko's defining characteristic is his role as the emissary to the prophets, the beings who live in the wormhole near Deep Space Nine and who are worshipped as gods by the Bajoran people. Sisko is deeply uncomfortable with this religious role at first, being a rational Starfleet officer who doesn't believe in gods. But over the series, he comes to accept and even embrace his spiritual role while maintaining his Starfleet duties, creating fascinating tension between religious faith and secular reason. Sisko's command style is more pragmatic and willing to compromise than Picard's idealism or Kirk's bold heroics. He makes deals with morally questionable characters like Quark the Ferengi and Garrick the Cardassian spy because he needs them to keep the station running and gather intelligence. He's willing to bend rules and make morally gray choices when circumstances demand it, most famously in the episode In the Pale Moonlight, where he becomes complicit in murder and deception to bring the Romulans into the war against the Dominion. This moral complexity makes Sisko the most conflicted and perhaps most realistic Star Trek captain. He struggles with decisions in ways that Kirk and Picard often didn't, and he lives with the consequences of his choices in ways that the episodic nature of previous series didn't allow. He's a good man forced to make terrible decisions by impossible circumstances, and he carries the weight of those decisions throughout the series. Sisko is also significant as Star Trek's first black lead character in a captain role, bringing different cultural perspectives and experiences to the franchise. His relationship with his son Jake is central to his character, and his romance with Cassidy Yates adds personal stakes to his decisions. Sisko represents Star Trek, grappling with harder questions, What happens when Federation ideals clash with brutal reality? How far can you compromise your principles before you lose yourself? Can good people do bad things for the right reasons? Deep Space Nine used Sisko to explore these questions in ways that made Star Trek more mature and complex. Captain Kathryn Janeway. Captain Kathryn Janeway, played by Kate Mulgrew, commands the USS Voyager in Star Trek Voyager, 1995 to 2001. Janeway is Star Trek's first female captain as a series lead, breaking a significant barrier for the franchise and for science fiction television. But Janeway's significance goes beyond representation. She faces unique challenges that test her leadership in ways unlike any previous captain. Voyager's premise has the ship stranded in the Delta Quadrant, 70,000 light-years from Federation space, requiring an estimated 70 years to get home. This means Janeway is cut off from Starfleet command, from support, from resupply, and from the Federation's resources and authority. She has to make decisions alone with no possibility of backup or reinforcement, leading a crew that includes Starfleet officers and former Maquis rebels who must work together to survive. Janeway's defining characteristic is her determination to get her crew home while maintaining Starfleet principles despite being impossibly far from the Federation. She could abandon Federation ideals and focus purely on survival, but she insists on maintaining standards, following protocols, mostly, and representing the Federation's values even when there's no one to enforce them. This commitment to principle despite isolation shows the strength of her character and her belief in what Starfleet represents. But Janeway is also more willing than Picard to bend rules and make morally questionable choices when her crew's survival demands it. She's made alliances with the Borg, violated the Temporal Prime Directive, and made decisions that Picard might have considered too compromising. She walks a line between Picard's idealism and Sisko's pragmatism, maintaining principles when possible, but prioritizing her crew's survival when necessary. Janeway's command style is maternal but firm. She cares deeply about her crew. They're not just her officers, they're her family for the journey home. She knows them personally, involves herself in their lives, and makes decisions that consider their well-being alongside strategic necessities. But she's also tough and demanding, expecting excellence and not tolerating insubordination. Janeway's relationship with Seven of Nine, a Borg drone she rescued and helped reclaim her humanity, showcases her compassion and her belief in redemption. Her mentorship of Seven, helping her navigate emotions and individuality after years as part of the collective, is some of Voyager's best character work. Janeway represents Star Trek, proving that women can lead the franchise, that female captains can be complex and interesting, and that the show can explore different types of leadership and different approaches to maintaining Federation values under extreme circumstances. Captain Jonathan Archer. Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Scott Bakula, commands the NX-01 Enterprise in Star Trek Enterprise, 2001 to 2005. Enterprise is a prequel series set before the original series, before the Federation exists, when humanity is just beginning to explore deep space and encountering alien species for the first time. This makes Archer fundamentally different from other captains. He's writing the rulebook that Kirk and others will later follow. Archer doesn't have the Prime Directive to guide him because it hasn't been created yet. He doesn't have centuries of Starfleet experience and protocol to draw on. He's figuring out first contact procedures, diplomatic protocols, and exploration standards through trial and error. This makes him more fallible and uncertain than captains who come later chronologically, but earlier in production, creating interesting dramatic tension. Archer is characterized by his optimism and his determination to prove that humanity deserves to be part of the galactic community. He faces skepticism and prejudice from species like the Vulcans who don't believe humans are ready for deep space exploration. Archer's mission is partly about exploring, but equally about proving the doubters wrong and establishing humanity's reputation among the stars. Archer's relationship with the Vulcan T'Pol is central to Enterprise, echoing the Kirk-Spock dynamic, but with added tension, because Vulcans in this era look down on humans as impulsive and emotional. The development of mutual respect between Archer and T'Pol mirrors the broader development of human-Vulcan relations that will eventually lead to the Federation's founding. The series explores how traumatic events shape Archer, and through him, how they shape Starfleet's future policies. The Jindy attack on Earth and Archer's subsequent mission into the Delphic Expanse forces him to make increasingly dark choices. torture, deception, sacrificing innocent lives, that show how extreme circumstances can compromise principles. His struggle with these choices and his efforts to maintain his humanity despite them create complex character development. Archer represents Star Trek exploring its own origins, showing how the ideals and institutions that define the franchise came to be, and acknowledging that the path to that optimistic future wasn't always clean or easy. Captain Christopher Pike. Captain Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, was originally a character from the original series pilot who captained the Enterprise before Kirk. Pike was reimagined for Star Trek, Discovery, and then became the lead of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. This version of Pike knows his own tragic future. He's seen a vision showing that he will be horribly injured and left paralyzed and disfigured in an accident, yet he chooses to continue on the path that leads to that fate because changing it would prevent him from saving lives. Pike's defining characteristic is his knowledge of his own doom and his choice to accept it rather than change the timeline. This gives him a tragic quality unlike any other Star Trek captain. He's living on borrowed time, knowing exactly how his story ends, and choosing to make the most of the time he has while serving Starfleet and his crew. It's a meditation on fate, duty, sacrifice, and what it means to be a hero knowing the cost. Pike's command style in Strange New Worlds is warm, encouraging, and optimistic. He's beloved by his crew, he values their input and well-being, and he leads by example and inspiration rather than just authority. He represents a return to episodic Star Trek exploration after Discovery's serialized, darker approach, making him the spiritual successor to Kirk and Picard's optimistic leadership. Pike's relationship with Spock, who serves under him before serving under Kirk, provides fascinating context for the character fans know from the original series. Pike's mentorship helps shape Spock into the officer he'll become, and their mutual respect gives depth to Spock's later loyalty to Pike in the original series episode The Menagerie. Pike represents Star Trek reconnecting with its roots while acknowledging the weight of legacy and the cost of heroism. He's a bridge between the franchise's past and present, embodying classic Trek values while existing in a more serialized, emotionally complex modern storytelling context. Michael Burnham. Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa Martin Green, is the main character of Star Trek Discovery 2017 to 2024, though she's not a captain for most of the series. Burnham is unique as Star Trek's first main character who isn't primarily defined by command, though she eventually becomes captain of the Discovery. She's also significant as a Black woman protagonist in a franchise that has struggled with representation in lead roles. Burnham was raised on Vulcan after her human parents were killed, making her similar to Spock in being caught between human emotion and Vulcan logic. But unlike Spock, who struggles to suppress his emotions, Burnham struggles to reconnect with her emotions after years of Vulcan training taught her to suppress them. This creates interesting character work about identity, belonging, and finding balance. Discovery begins with Burnham committing mutiny against her captain, an unprecedented starting point that makes her deeply flawed and shows Star Trek willing to let its protagonist make terrible mistakes with lasting consequences. Burnham's journey through Discovery is about redemption, about learning from failure, and about growing into leadership through humility and experience rather than just talent and training. Burnham's emotional intensity and tendency toward dramatic speeches has been controversial among fans who prefer the more restrained captains of previous series. But this emotionality is intentional. Burnham is learning to integrate her emotions with her Vulcan training, and her journey is about accepting her humanity rather than suppressing it. Discovery's serialized storytelling allows Burnham's character to develop across seasons in ways that episodic Trek didn't permit. She evolves from a disgraced mutineer to a trusted officer to eventually captain of Discovery, earning each step through growth and demonstrated leadership. Burnham represents Star Trek's shift towards serialized character-driven storytelling and its willingness to center stories on flawed protagonists who have to earn their heroism rather than starting as idealized leaders. Dal Rl, Prodigy, the young captain, learning what Starfleet means. Dal Rl, voiced by Brett Gray, is one of the main characters of Star Trek Prodigy 2021 to present, an animated series aimed at younger audiences. Dal is a teenager of unknown species who was enslaved on a mining colony and who escapes with other young aliens, finding an abandoned Starfleet ship called the Protostar. Despite having no Starfleet training or knowledge of the Federation, Dal declares himself captain and tries to lead his crew. Dal's character is about learning what it means to be a captain through trial and error, guided by a holographic Janeway who serves as the ship's training program. He starts out selfish and impulsive, making decisions based on what he wants rather than what's best for his crew. His journey through Prodigy is about learning responsibility, leadership, teamwork, and the values that Starfleet represents. Dal represents Star Trek reaching younger audiences and showing them the franchise's core values through a character who learns them from scratch. He makes mistakes that teach lessons about cooperation, respect, courage, and doing the right thing even when it's hard. His growth from a selfish kid to a genuine leader mirrors the journey young viewers themselves might take as they grow up. Prodigy uses Dal and his crew to explain Star Trek's concepts, history, and values to an audience that might not know anything about the franchise, making him an educational character as well as an entertaining protagonist. The legacy of Star Trek's main characters. What connects all these characters, from Kirk to Dal, is that they represent the best of humanity and the Federation, while remaining flawed and relatable. They're leaders who make mistakes, who struggle with doubt and fear, who question their decisions, but who ultimately strive to do the right thing and to uphold values of exploration, cooperation, respect, and hope for a better future. Each captain or main character brings something unique to Star Trek while maintaining connection to the franchise's core vision. Kirk's boldness, Picard's thoughtfulness, Sisko's complexity, Janeway's determination, Archer's pioneering spirit, Pike's tragic heroism, Burnham's emotional journey, and Dal's growth all represent different aspects of leadership and different ways of embodying Starfleet's ideals. These characters matter because they show that there's no one right way to be a hero or a leader. They demonstrate that you can maintain your principles while adapting to circumstances, that you can be strong while showing vulnerability, that you can be different from those who came before while honoring their legacy. That's why Star Trek's main characters have endured and why new ones continue to emerge. They represent not just entertainment, but inspiration, showing audiences different paths to becoming better people and building better worlds.